The following is a fictional roleplay. All people, places, and events are fictional. Hi, Darby. Welcome back.
Hi.
It's been a few weeks since we met the last time. How have things been going since the last time we saw each other?
Oh, they've been all right. Some things have been kind of crazy, but other aspects have been okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has your anxiety been doing lately?
It's been up and down, I think, just kind of like intermittent.
Okay, so there are times that it's worse and then times that it's not quite so bad.
hmm
Where would you put your anxiety on that 1 to 10 scale today?
Um, I would say, well, overall, like a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I have
that's a
a,
little higher than the last time when we met.
yeah, I have a lot going on with the holidays, and then we're taking a trip, and then I just had a crazy day of running errands and then my husband got home late, so it's just,
So a lot of stressful stuff going on lately.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to put on our agenda for today?
Um, well, I could kind of talk about all the craziness from my day and then
Okay.
just how that kind of made me feel really anxious.
So you'd like to talk about how all of the individual stressful events that happened today contributed to your anxiety?
hmm
Okay. So we'll put that down on the agenda as talking about all of the stressfulness today, all the craziness today.
hmm
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to put on our agenda?
Um, I guess not. I think that will kind of tie into everything we've been talking about so far.
Okay. Now, if it's okay for me to kind of suggest something that I'd like to put on our agenda after we talk about all of the things that have gone on with you today, would be going over more in depth some of what we talked about in our previous sessions about friendships and the anxiety you had in relationship to that, and then
hmm
some of your beliefs about what that what that all means, what that means about you. Would that
hmm
be okay to put on the agenda for today as well?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So is there anything else we need to go over before we jump into talking about your day today?
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, go ahead and walk me through what happened today.
All right, so it's just been a crazy week, even though it's only Tuesday, but we're Thanksgiving, and then we're going on a trip Friday, so I'm trying to get everything done.
Hmm.
And for one class, I'm supposed to meet with veterans and for 7 hours. So I was trying to get my last hour in today.
Hmm.
So I went to church because he's the deacon at our church, and we were going to go to like daily mass and then meet after. So I got Nolan and I there on time, and it went well, but he wasn't there. So I just like kind of, and I lead the youth group on base, so I had to like do some stuff for that while I was at the chapel. And then I called him. He's like, I'm going to be late. I'm like, okay, I'll run some errands. So I had to go to the post office. Then turns out they were closed for lunch. And then I had to go shopping for Thanksgiving. So I went to the store. But then I had some cold stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll have to put it in the fridge at the chapel. And then I have had this person's Tupperware for um, like a month now. So I'm like, I need to give it back to her, but she doesn't live on base. So I was like, she said, oh, you can just drop it off in my husband's work. So I went there. And well, I forgot to mention so the things that were causing me anxiety is I like kept running into these people. So this one guy is just kind of at the chapel is just like very off-putting and like bitter, and like anytime you try and talk to him, he kind of like uses a demeaning just tone. So, I talk to him and he gives me anxiety talking to him, but I talk to him, and then so I ran into someone else I know at the store, talked to him, that's fine. But then I went to this person's work to drop that off, and I ran into that same guy again. And so it was just kind of like awkward. I don't know. I just hate running into people like after I've already seen them. And then the husband, I had never met him, but I had met her a lot, and she's super nice. And I kind of expected him to be, like smile at least, like, oh, hi. But he just like stared at me like, like, why are you here? I'm like, oh, she said I could drop this off. He's like, yeah, she texted me. And I was like, okay, I'll just put these down. So he kind of just was off putting too. And then I went back to the chapel because he was there finally, and to talk with him. And the other guy that I had said earlier that has kind of a demeaning tone, like ran into him again. He's like, oh, you just love us or something. They're like, why you keep coming around or something. I was like, I know, I didn't really want to come back and see you, but thanks. So it's just like I kept running into these people, and I don't know why it made me feel just like self-conscious, I guess. And a lot of them are like a part of the military, so it kind of gives me like I don't know, like I'm not in the military, but there's the whole rank thing, and they're all like kind of higher, and they're all a lot higher than my husband. So I'm just like, I don't know. I just get really self-conscious about it and anxious. And then, and then I had to go back to the post office after our meeting. So it was just like running in and out. And then my husband he got home like 2 hours after he normally does. So, and I was trying to get homework done, but it was really hard. So it's just like frazzled by the time that he walked in. I was just like high, I didn't even want to really talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was all that went on.
That's a lot to go on in one day.
Yeah. And that's not even like the how many times that I had to change my son's diaper in the car, or feed him in the car, or in the parking lot, just like all sorts of stuff.
So on top of just the regular sort of stress that goes on with caring for a young infant, then you had all these other things going on that were contributing to stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I share an observation that I had while you were, talking about your different interactions with people and how that was making you feel?
Sure.
It seems like a lot of these interactions that seemed to throw you off were with people that were demeaning in tone, people that weren't responding to you the way that you would expect, like with smiles or by being positive.
Yeah.
Does that seem to sort of relate to any of the things that you've talked about before in terms of, your expectations of responses from others, and when that doesn't match up, it making you feel anxious?
Yeah.
So what do you think that means to you when someone, maybe doesn't smile or just kind of has a flat affect or is kind of gruff, like, yeah, she texted me?
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
Sort of, what are you thinking? What do you think when someone responds to you like that?
I guess my initial thought is that it must be something that I did,
Okay,
or
so
something wrong with me, or I did something wrong.
you attribute it to something either that you've done or just an attribute of yours, like there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then as you have that thought that, there's something wrong with me, then you start feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just kind of continuing to play that out then, if someone responds to you in a way that you weren't expecting, that you interpret as negative, and then you have the thought that there must be something wrong with me, what would that mean if that were true, if there is something wrong with you?
I guess that I'm not doing something that I should be doing.
Okay. So that you're consistently not meeting expectations, or that you're not achieving things that you believe you should be doing?
Yeah, I guess it's just like I just want everyone to like me, I guess. So if I get this bad response or interaction, then that means they don't like me. So that means there's something wrong with me. So I'm not doing what I should be doing for myself, like,
Okay. So that first thing that you just said that I did you say you want everyone to like you or that you believe everyone like that you should be able to get everyone to like you? How
um,
how
both, I guess.
how strong do you believe that if we put that on a scale of 0 to 100%?
That I believe that everyone should like me or that I should get everyone to like me.
That that you should be able to get everyone to like you.
I'd say like 95%.
So pretty high then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty likable person, so
Yeah.
I would take, yeah, I guess I get really offended if someone doesn't like me.
Okay. Now, if we were to turn that situation around like we have before in the past, if someone came to you and said, Darby, I'm just really upset because, someone didn't smile at me today and they were kind of gruff, and I interacted with a lot of people today that didn't really seem to like me, what
Hmm.
would you say to them?
I just, um, well, I kind of ask for more context first. I'm thinking of this one person that would happen with, and um, but then after that, if they tell me that they did, and this sounds bad, I guess, that if they did everything right by what I would expect from someone or what I would expect from myself, then I would just be like, oh, those people are dumb.
Okay, so you would give them a response that would maybe open the door to the fact that maybe there are some people out there that just aren't going to like you no matter what you do.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Or they were having a bad day, but um, if it's like the same person over and over, I'm just like, yeah, they have their own problems.
Hmm. So, what I'm hearing from you is that you have this very strong belief that everyone should like you or that you should be able to get everyone to like you. You said 95%. And then if someone doesn't like you, even after you've done everything, that maybe there's something wrong with them, that they're just not,
Yeah,
maybe they're not a good person.
yeah. And I actually came home and well, my after my husband got home, I talked to him about my friend's husband, the one that was super just like stone cold, um, and just kind of off-putting. I told him about that because he knows him because he's like an officer in his command, and he's like, yeah, that's just him, like he is never friendly. So that made me feel a lot better because it was like, oh, then it's not me, it's him.
Yeah.
So
So you were able to get some more information that sort of disproved your initial belief that maybe you had done something wrong or you hadn't approached him correctly, and then you found out that that's just how he is in general.
yeah, so that actually made me feel a lot better. um, yeah.
Okay. Well, what we've just been talking about kind of tied into what I had wanted to put on the agenda for today of going a little bit more in depth with some of the things we talked about before in terms of, beliefs that you have about friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this belief that everyone should like you being 95%, I was wondering if it'd be okay if we did a little exercise where I have you write some stuff down on a piece of paper to examine that belief. Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to be writing in two different columns, and then we're going to write underneath that. So on the left-hand side, can you write down everyone should like me, or whatever wording for that makes it the most true for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then underneath that, write down any evidence that you have that you should be able to get everyone to like you, that in a perfect world, everyone will like you. And then can you kind of share with me some of the evidence that you have?
Sure. Well, I guess that I'm able to make friends with almost everyone. Like if I see someone and I'm like, "Oh, we should be friends," then I am. But I guess in the past, I kind of talked about a couple instances where that didn't work out. But
Mm-hmm.
those were like, like only a couple. So besides those, I mean, mostly everyone I'm able to make friends with, or like I just get a lot of positive feedback from people. Ever since I was a kid, I would always interact well with adults, and so it's like always just kind of getting them to um, kind of give me that aware, or I don't know how to word it, just like I know that they approve of me. I guess approval is the
Okay.
word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let me ask, if there are times where you have interactions that don't go along what you've been used to during, from childhood until now, where you don't feel like you get approval, does
Mm-hmm.
that lead to a feeling, a thought, or belief that maybe you're not good enough or that you are a bad person? Does any of that ring true?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like anytime I have um yeah, like anything that goes away from people giving me approval and stuff that definitely seems to mess with me and give me anxiety.
Okay. So would you say the I'm not good enough, does that ring the most true then with that belief that everyone should like you?
Yeah, I guess if I am not liked, then that means that I'm not good enough in that instance, at least. Yeah.
Okay. So then if I asked you to rank that I'm not good enough on a scale of 1 to 100% or 0 to 100%, where would you put yourself with that?
Um, I would say that it's just like, I'm trying to think of, do you mean like on a daily basis or in a particular situation that I'm struggling in?
Well, what about maybe earlier today? And
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about those interactions that you had, and if it's okay if we pretend that you're ranking yourself on this before you found out from your husband that that one guy just talks to everyone like that,
Mm-hmm.
how strongly would you believe that I'm not good enough belief today when you kept running into the same people that were gruff and demeaning?
Um, I would say like 70, 60, 60 or 70.
Okay. Maybe we could split it and say 65%.
Okay.
Okay. Would you mind then writing that down on the piece of paper that we started? Just kind of make a new section on there.
Okay.
Now, you said, it's 65%. It sounds like there are times that you don't quite believe that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you reframe that phrase, I'm not good enough, on the days that you are not struggling with this?
Well, if I'm not, so like if I'm not struggling with it, then I am good enough.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So it's either, I'm not good enough or I am.
hmm
Is there ever any sort of a like an in between um like maybe there are times that people don't like you, but that's okay. I'm still a good person even though, this person isn't responding to me the way I want.
yeah, those are those instances where I'm like, well, that's that person. Like it's on
Okay.
them instead of me. So
Okay.
I'm good enough, but they're not.
Okay. What if we put down something, next to the I'm not good enough that said, um, people may not always respond positively to me, but I'm still good enough.
Okay.
Does that, does that phrase seem true to you?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's something that you would be able to believe even on those days when you run into a lot of people that aren't really overly friendly or smiley?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we've done is write the negative belief on the left and then the more balanced or positive belief on the right. And
hmm
then underneath both of those on this worksheet, you can write down the evidence that is for or against those beliefs. So today, as you were going through your day and you kept running into those same people, what evidence did you have that you were not good enough?
Um, they didn't smile
Okay.
or seem friendly. Um, I kind of also just felt like it was my fault that I was running into them again, and that's not like acceptable, I guess. So I felt like I was not doing the right thing in that situation.
Okay,
So,
so if I'm understanding correctly, then in addition to running into these unpleasant people, and you were wondering, they didn't seem friendly, so maybe that means I'm not good enough, then you were also sort of blaming yourself for having to see them over and over and over again.
yeah.
And what evidence do you have that it was your fault that you kept running into them?
Well, because I'm the one that like went to where they work. But like I had already seen, like I went to the one guy's work twice, and then I ran into the one guy at the store, and then he went to back to work, and I happened to go to his work too.
So is there any way you think that starting your day today, you could have known that you were going to keep running into these people and do anything different?
No, I guess not.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other evidence that you can put underneath I'm not good enough?
Is this just for today or life?
You can put it down for life if you have more.
um, well, just like people get mad at me sometimes.
So for the earlier piece of evidence you had that people didn't smile or seem friendly, you were able to get some more information or look at things from a different perspective and sort of kind of see where there was another explanation for that or another thing that that could mean. So if people don't smile at you, your initial response may be to think that that confirms that you're not good enough. But when you look at it from a different angle or get some other information, you might see that that's just how that person is, or they were having a bad day, or maybe they're just not a nice person.
Hmm.
Can you do the same thing for this evidence that people get mad at you sometimes and then that means that you're a bad person?
Um, well, I mean, sometimes I do like mess up.
Okay, so sometimes you make mistakes.
Yeah.
But so does what does that mean? Does that mean that you're a bad person?
No, it just means that I'm not good enough in that situation or I wasn't doing the right thing.
Okay. Do you believe that it's not acceptable to make mistakes?
Um, yeah, I don't. Um, well, I mean, I go through life trying to not make mistakes. So, yeah, it's not really acceptable, I guess, in my eyes. Um,
Okay. So then if you make a mistake, then it reinforces the belief that you're not good enough.
yeah.
Okay. Now, if we asked you to turn the tables here and pretend that you're talking to someone else in the same situation, would you
Mm.
tell them, if they came to you and said, I made a mistake, would you tell them that, well, that's not acceptable?
Well, it depends who it is, because if it's my sister, then I might tell her that.
Okay, so for anyone outside of your family,
uh,
do you think you would give them the same response that you give to yourself, or would you give them a different one?
yeah, it just depends what it is. I guess. I mean, most of the time, no, I'd be like more sympathetic to my friends, but
Okay.
it just, I guess if they're actually sorry, then it's better than if they're not. Because
Okay.
that still reinforces that mistakes are not okay, because then why else would you be sorry for them?
Okay, but I guess what we're getting at is if someone makes a mistake, does that mean that they're a bad person or that they're not good enough?
No, I guess not. Just
And
in that, well, in that instance, they weren't. I don't know. I guess I just have really high expectations or standards for everyone.
okay, well, then acknowledging that you have very high expectations for yourself and those around you, do you think that um, does it help you to recognize that?
Yeah, I guess. I kind of knew that about myself. It just, and it also depends what the situation is. Like, I just had a text that, well, now it's like my good friend, so I'm not as worried about it. But she had texted me about something that she was really excited about, like Sunday or Monday. And, I had typed out, oh, that's so exciting, but it never sent. So it felt kind of bad. um, but then I would hope that she'd understand, and she texted me back, even though she didn't acknowledge that I sent that. I sent something else too. I was like, oh, sorry, that didn't send. And then I went into something else. And she wasn't ever like, oh, that's okay. So I'm kind of still concerned about that, but not that much. But that's like a small mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay, like move on. But
Mm-hmm.
there's other things that I,
Mm-hmm. Well, then let me ask you, like, if a friend makes a mistake, does that mean that they're not good enough to be your friend anymore?
well, it depends what it is. Um, but I mean, because I guess like if you're, yeah, like I said, it just depends what the mistake is. If they're sorry, and if it's like a moral thing or not. If it's like, yeah. So and yeah, I guess that's just like different ideals. Then I might like I talked about like handing someone an unfriend card because you can't unfriend. Like, how do you unfriend someone in real life? Like you can
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, but so yeah, I guess I actually did think about that the other day earlier. So maybe it isn't
About not
that.
being friends with someone based on a
Yeah,
mistake?
yeah. Well, what I view as a mistake, but what they don't.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess, bringing that back then to the beliefs about yourself, that the evidence that you're not good enough, that if people get mad at you, then you've made a mistake or you haven't done something right.
Hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
think that there's ever like ever, a different way of looking at it or a more balanced way of looking at it? Kind of
Um,
like we have done with the other examples.
so instead of the thing about I'm not good enough, or
Mm-hmm.
um, I guess it's yeah, just like what we said, like I can make mistakes sometimes.
Okay. So if you were to write down next to that, I can make mistakes sometimes.
And still be a good person, or still be good enough. Yeah, because I do. Yeah, it's not that I'm a bad person so much as like I'm just not good enough or acceptable in particular situations.
So you're saying that you can make mistakes sometimes and still be good enough. There just may have been a situation that you messed up or didn't do things all the way right, but that you are still good enough as a person.
Hmm.
And then, for what you had said earlier about if people don't like you or if you don't have good friendships, then that may be evidence that you're not good enough. Can you think of a way to reframe that one as well?
Um, about about what? Just rephrase or just rephrase.
Okay. It takes me a second sometimes to reframe what I said,
Yeah,
and to
no,
make sure that I'm being specific.
yeah.
So, what we talked about in the previous sessions leading up until now, and then also some more today, has been about your beliefs and your thoughts about, friendships and the way people respond to you and what that says about you as a person.
Hmm.
So, with this belief, I'm not good enough, we just reframed it, in terms of making mistakes. Like I can make mistakes and still be good enough.
Hmm.
Trying to tie that into the belief we talked about earlier with, people should like me.
Hmm.
Pretty almost everyone should like me unless
Yeah.
there's something wrong with them. Can you think of a way to reframe that in a way that's more balanced?
Well, I guess that would just be the not opposite, but like everyone. I guess I should just accept that not everyone is going to like me.
And that may not be because of something that is wrong with you.
Hmm.
Do you believe that?
Yeah,
Maybe a little.
yeah. Now I do. I guess it's when I'm thinking about like people whose beliefs or morals are just like so off from me. I mean, they might not like mine, and I might not like theirs. So we're not going to.
You're not going to see eye to eye.
Yeah.
And then in that situation, it may not mean that you're a bad person or that they are a bad person, but that, like you said, you don't see eye to eye. There's not a good matchup.
Yeah.
So how are you writing that down?
I said not everyone is going to like me, and it doesn't mean I'm a bad person or not good enough.
Hmm. Now, next to that, can you write down some evidence that you have for the belief that you are a good person or that you are good enough?
Um, So evidence that I am good enough.
Yeah, yeah. If you put down the negative belief that I'm not good enough, that you said you believe about 65%.
Mm-hmm. Um, I am what I would consider like doing what I should be, or like successful in life at this point.
Okay. So your evidence that you are good enough is that you know that you are meeting your own standards most of the time
Yeah.
to be successful or to, be a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any other evidence to support that?
Um, I guess just what goes back, like I do have a lot of positive interactions with people and friends.
Okay. So would you say that most of your interactions with friends and others are positive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So go ahead and write that down. Can you think of any other evidence that you'd like to put there?
Um, mm, I think those summarize it pretty well.
Okay. Now, after we went through this exercise and we wrote down the negative belief, reframed it a little, and then put down, the positive and gave evidence for that too. What would you rate your belief that you're not good enough now?
I would say like 30%.
Okay. So it's come down to 30% from 65.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, over the next week between now and our next session,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about giving yourself this assignment to do? In those moments, like if you have a situation where you keep running into these people that are gruff or demeaning, and you find yourself starting to feel anxious about that again, or feeling like there's something that you didn't do right.
Mm-hmm.
Could you sit down and look at this again?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing we could do is, I know that you wrote that out on a piece of paper for yourself. We could make a note card today for you to take home with you that you could put in your purse or your diaper bag or in the car somewhere, that you could pull that out and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you find yourself having any other, thoughts or beliefs that you'd like to try this out with, do you think that you'd be confident enough to, walk yourself through this again?
Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah.
Okay. Would it help if maybe we gave you a blank like worksheet for it so that the columns were already set up that you could plug in the information?
Yeah, if I just had it like sitting around where I'd remember it, and it'd be
Okay. Okay,
pretty.
so if you put it in a place that was easy to access or easy to see,
Mm-hmm.
where do you think that might be?
I guess. Well, I don't want to make my desk cluttered because it's not right now, but like on top of my desk,
Okay.
or just like make a sticky note to put on my um like whiteboard thing to
Okay.
remind myself like, oh, do worksheet if I need to, something like that.
Okay. So you're going to do the worksheet if you do start to feel anxious again over the week, or if you notice yourself starting to have those thoughts related to not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you Is there a certain place of the house that you would typically go if you're starting to feel that way?
No, not really. It just kind of varies.
Okay.
And with,
Okay.
um, but yeah, I guess I could like make a note on my phone too, maybe.
Okay, yeah. People use their phones a lot.
Yeah, I know that's kind of what I do if I'm like stressed and just need to like forget. I'm just like looking at stuff on there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So putting a reminder on your phone may be a helpful way to remind yourself to go use that worksheet if you have another instance like today where you start feeling stressed out or overwhelmed or um, you're having a lot of those situations that make you feel anxious.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we'll also give you a little post-it note with some of the information on it that we came up with today. The evidence for this new balanced belief that, I may make mistakes sometimes or people may not always like me, but I'm still good enough. And the
Hmm.
evidence you have for that.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, is there anything else today that we didn't get to that we would need to maybe put on the agenda for our next appointment?
Um, I don't know. We'll just have to see where I'm at then, because I think I'm good now.
Okay.
The situation.
Okay. So next time we'll pick up with going over how using that card went, and then if you did add any information to that worksheet, we can go over that next time.
Hmm.
Okay. So if it's okay, we can spend a few minutes wrapping up then at the end of the appointment and uh, then, just sort of review the information that you got today and then
Hmm.
go ahead and say goodbye.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the session, you said that your anxiety was at a 6. If I
Hmm.
asked you to put that on a scale of 1 to 10, where'd you put that now?
Now I would say 4.
Okay, so it's down to a 4. Okay. What was the what was helpful for you today to bring that down from a 6 to a 4?
I think, well, one, being here has made me forget about everything else that I have to do. And two, just kind of talking through these and just realizing that I have realistic expectations that everyone should like me. So I
Okay.
can accept that not everyone will like me.
Okay.
And that even just making mistakes sometimes means that I'm still good enough as a person,
Mhm.
and just reinforcing that things aren't always my fault for, like I couldn't help running into these people, or I couldn't help that they were just having a bad day, or just
Okay.
not a friendly person. Like that's nothing that I could handle.
Right. So that there may be another explanation for things aside from the belief I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, is there anything else that you learned today or that you really thought was helpful or anything that stuck out?
Yeah, really just those things that I said, and
Okay.
just kind of telling myself that I am good enough and successful most of the time. So that's
Okay. Was there anything that was confusing or unhelpful? Anything that I can clarify today?
no, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, if you do think of any questions between now and then, feel free to write them down or to give me a call, and then we can go over that if you run into any trouble filling out that worksheet on your own or if
Hmm.
anything like that comes up, okay?
Okay.
All right, Darby. So I'll plan to see you back in a week, and then we'll go over that some more.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. The previous was a fictional role play. All people, places, and events were made up.